All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Felipe. I'm here with the Charter for Compassion. Thank you so much for joining us for our Global Read webinar series. We are so excited and honored to be hosting Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish with his book, I Shall Not Hate. This conversation is happening right now for an hour through our webinar series, Global Read. As I mentioned before, our facilitator is Marge Andre. She is part of Compassionate York region up in Toronto, which also is where Dr. Abuelaish is located at the moment. If you have any questions, please make sure to put them on the chat, or if you're watching on our social media platforms, put your comments or questions in the comments section. I will make sure to put those questions at the end of the webinar so that everybody can get some answers or have some comments. And at the end of the webinar, we'll talk a little bit more about all the things that are happening with the charter. Marge, Dr. Abuelaish, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you. And I am honored to be able to facilitate this global read. So welcome, Dr. Abuelaish. And I may be stumbling over your name, but again, I'm honored to be talking with you. And I've got some questions to ask you. But you are living here in Toronto, like we're neighbors. And you teach down at the University of Toronto in public health. And you moved here in 2011. But you grew up in a much different place, one that I really can't even imagine. You were born in Palestine refugee camp, Jabalia, I believe it's pronounced, and I've heard that it's totally destroyed now. So against really all odds, you became a medical doctor specializing in OB-GYN, and you were able to work in an Israeli hospital for a Palestinian person. That is remarkable. And you were able to go get your degree from Harvard in public health. And you ran, though not successfully, to be an elected official. I think you're in being public health. I think you realized that you wanted systemic change. But in February of 2009, there was a 3-week war conflict. Your home was attacked. And while you were live broadcasting, your 3 daughters, Bezam, Mayar, and Aya, and your niece, Noor, were violently killed. And it's horrible. You wrote the book, I Shall Not Hate, Gaza's Doctor Journey, and the book that we will talk about. I'd like to say that you also have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And when I first noticed that you were doing the Global Read on March 8th, which is International Women's Day, my initial reaction was like, why are we doing that on International Women's Day? And then I realized that you really are dedicating yourself to this foundation you started, Daughters for Life. And that is really about women, about educating young women to get them to have a higher education. So your book was published in 2011. I started reading it October 11th, 2023. And I certainly would recommend everyone to read the book. It was very well, in my opinion, very well written. You wrote a gripping narrative of what your life was like in Gaza. The killing of your daughters and niece, it was just wrenching to read. And I really wanted to scream while reading how you were stopped at border points when you wanted to go be with your dying wife. It really was a very, very compelling book. So can we start by talking about why you wrote your book?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Of course, and I would like to congratulate every woman, every girl in this day, International Women's Day, and it should not be just today. Every day should be Women's Day. And that's important because the world is not complete without women, and women are the one who give life and who nurture life. So we must acknowledge that and celebrate Women's Day every day and to be grateful to women. So it's important what you mentioned. I moved to Canada 2009, not 2011. And also my book was published 2010. I wrote my book as a Palestinian because the stories, everyone we have a story. Everyone has a story. So stories are not just to read. Stories are about life experience. We want to learn from it and to practice it and to have the lessons by it. As a Palestinian refugee who was born and raised in Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, which is under attack these days, and my family are still there, and my home is still there, and my daughters are buried there in the Jabalia refugee camp with all of this suffering. So my life was a war. It's not just the war in 2008 or 2023. My life in general was a war. I was fighting to survive, but I realized that my suffering and others' suffering in this world, it's man-made. Everything that is happening these days in this world, it's man-made. And that's the hope, it's man-made. What can we do to unmade it? So I wrote my book to inspire the people. From where did I come as a Palestinian? From Jabalia refugee camp, and to achieve my dreams. And I encourage even the audience to dream, because no one can prevent us from dreaming. So we need to dream big, but we need to work hard and to have confidence in ourselves. As others made it, we can make it. So I dreamed from my early childhood to be a medical doctor. So I worked hard in order to achieve my dream. And life taught me nothing is impossible in life. Nothing is impossible. The only impossible thing in life I believe in is to return my daughters back to life. But they are alive and they will be kept alive. They are only in another place. They are only far away from me. So I wrote my book to tell the people there is hope. It's up to us, because the biggest challenge in our world is individual responsibility. Sometimes it's easy to escape responsibility by blaming others. Every one of us is responsible, and life is what we make it. Always has been, always will be. I can shape my life the way I want, whatever the challenges are there. And personally, I believe that the challenges I am facing, I use them as an opportunity. It's an opportunity. How can we use this challenge as an opportunity to transform it into something positive? So as I said, I want to share my book, my biography, with the people from Jabalia camp to medical school in Cairo, to be specialized in obstetrics and gynecology, from the University of London to be the first Palestinian to practice medicine in an Israeli hospital, back to London, to Italy, to Belgium, to Harvard. So everything I planned, I succeeded. I was born, to refugees who were not educated, teeming poverty, abject poverty, deprivation, suffering. But all of these challenges, as I lived, my life was a raging ocean, but I didn't allow it to stop me from achieving my dreams. So I said, I want to write my book with a positive message. How can we challenge ourselves? And we need to work together also to make the world a better one for all of us, to send a positive message, the result of the book.
Okay. Thank you so much for those inspiring words and pushing us all forward. Your title of your book is I Shall Not Hate. You've talked about it. I've watched your YouTube videos, and this idea of not hating, that hate is seen as a poison. Can you talk more about that just this idea that we have to avoid hating?
Yeah, it's important, because the people, after what I faced, even after the killing, the slaughtering of my daughters and niece, the people were expecting me, as usual, to react with hatred, with anger. Maybe I have the right to be angry or to hate, but anger, there is difference, and we need to reflect on these terms that we use all of the time. We think of some terms without discussing or digging deeper in these terms. So anger, of course, it can be positive anger and negative anger. Positive anger, which promotes, which triggers in me an energy to take a positive action. When I see something wrong happening in front of me, I will rush to stop the harm. The negative anger, that it leads to damage and to destruction, to anything else, and that we lose our mind. So I started to think, what is hatred? The people, they started to ask me, do you hate? And one time they asked my daughter, if you hate. So my daughter responded, whom to hate? And that's what I started to do, a lot of literature readings about hatred. And from the definition of hatred, it's emotion, it's feeling, it's attitude, it's behavior. So I said, why do people, they want me to be afflicted with this hatred? Why? Because that's the natural reaction, or even unconscious. The people sometimes unconscious, they start to react. Every action has a reaction. So the reaction to harm is to hate.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all of that, and then I realized, no, I will never allow hatred, because hatred for me, it's a contagious, destructive disease. It's a disease. And I started to use the public health approach and the epidemiological approach in the study of hatred. Hatred, no one is born with hatred. It's triggered, it's caused as a result of exposure. Someone who is exposed to harm, a real harm, existential threat, can lead to hatred. So it's the result of exposure, and it's contagious, it's destructive, and also happens in clusters. That's why it's a poison, it's a fire. It's a fire, it's a poison, it's something that destroys the one who is afflicted with it. It paralyzes us and we become blind, and it disturbs the homeostasis, the balance of the human body. So since then, maybe about now, 13 years, I am studying it to study the pathophysiology of hatred. And if you hate someone, a real one who did you harm, and to pass by you, immediate, your mind will be out. And even when we are afflicted with this hatred, you go to work, you are thinking of the one who did you harm. So I say to people, if someone did you harm, you are a victim of that harm, but don't be a victim of hatred. Don't accept to be a victim more than once. And the opposite, you need the harm that happened to you to use it as an opportunity to challenge the perpetrator, because if you collapse from the first challenge you face, you are gone, you are dead, and you can't move. As Einstein said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep balance, we need to keep moving. So if you stop moving, heavy, sinking deeper, you are not moving. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? So you need to be energized. I know it's not easy. The wound can be big, the scar is large, but how to motivate in you to say, I will never be broken, I will never be defeated, I will never collapse, and I will never allow hatred to approach me, to build a shield around me, and to challenge the perpetrator, not with the harm he did, by achieving the goals and moving forward. The antidote of hatred is success without fear, and not to allow fear approach you.
Okay. Like the word I like to use as being part of the Charter for Compassion is to have compassion. Like you recognize that there is something wrong and you take action. So that's I believe you are being extremely compassionate.
Yeah, but
I'm wondering
compassion,
though if you can.
it's good what you mentioned about compassion. What do we mean by compassion? Compassion to whom? And what are the requirements for compassion? It's important also sometimes when we reflect them. Compassion to whom? You want to be compassionate with whom? With someone. It's about a relationship between two. So compassion, I agree with you. It's about responsibility, about the changing, and it needs also accountability. If someone did harm, in order to learn the lessons, not about punishment, about accountability and taking responsibility in order not to repeat the harm or the act which happened before. Because otherwise, if we want to pass by without doing accountability and the transparency to fix the problems, then we live in the jungle. So it's important. Accountability and the responsibility are essential, are crucial for all of us in order to be compassionate, and we need compassionate with responsibility.
Yeah. I have been thinking a lot about, what are the conditions that allow us to be not hating, to be compassionate, to have a sort of dialogue amongst people. So can you can you talk about what you see as good conditions to bring forth? Like I've tried to start some interfaith dialogue and people say, no, not now. It's not a good time. where others will say, yeah, now is the time. We're in such pain. We need to have this dialogue. What are your thoughts?
The requirements for compassion and dialogue, we need to come from the same level. You know, it's important, as in we all as people, we were created from Adam and Eve, and we became nations and the tribes. We are equal and we are free. We were born free. So when we come to meet together with the same level and eye to eye, close to each other with the same height, not someone inferior to the other or the other is superior based on color or ethnicity or religion. So if we started to deal with each other based on equality, dignity, and the freedom and justice for all, these are the foundations and the basis, the principles for compassion, and to discuss, to have the dialogue to achieve it. Not one is superior or imposing something on the other. So these are essential principles that we needed for compassion. And personally, I am a person of faith. I have my faith. Faith helps me a lot. My life experience helped me a lot. Number 3 is my profession as a medical doctor. It helped me a lot. My education. Education is vital, is essential. So we need to increase awareness about compassion and to practice it and to live by it. It's not just talking about compassion. We need to live it.
Need to live by. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about the situation in Gaza right now. Like I had heard, and I want your opinion, that you wrote the book back 2009, 2010, and then the situation in Gaza, did it get better? Were things improving there before the conflict in October 2023?
You know, it's because the people, they think the situation and what is happening just started October 7th, 2023. Then we have a Palestinian nation, Palestinian people, and it's important that we are meeting to know and to hear from the Palestinian people, not to hear about the Palestinian people. Palestinian people are people like everyone in this world, as every other nation in this world. They are people with hopes, with the plans, with the dreams, and they succeeded. For your knowledge, the Palestinian people are one of the most literate people in the world, in the Middle East. Yes, and they succeeded everywhere. If you go to Germany, there is a huge community of Palestinians. You go there to the hospitals, to the factories, engineers, doctors. We are successful and we invest everything in education. So the Palestinian people, they can't give up their education and they value the education. We are people that we have been kicked out of our home. They became refugees, scattered everywhere for more than 7 decades. So the life before, in particular, in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem, with the occupation and the intimidation, the dehumanization and the suffering on daily basis, and in particular in the Gaza Strip, the expansion of the settlements, even the water that under our feet, we can't control it. We don't have any control over it. So it's a challenging situation. Palestinian people are tested in their life on daily basis. No nation has been tested as the Palestinians are tested. And they are fighting just to survive. But what happened in the Gaza Strip, even before October 7, Gaza Strip, I describe it, and it has been described by the United Nations, it's a hell before October 7. It's hopeless, lifeless, jobless, helpless, lightless. Imagine yourself, you are in Canada, and you are disconnected from power for 30 minutes. How do you feel? And what about the Palestinians who never left? And from 2000 till now, more than 7 wars they experienced, the children. So that's the situation before. And now, after October 7, more than 32,000 Palestinians are killed. Innocent Palestinians. 10,000 are under the rubble. About 14,000 children, 8,000 women are killed. And the number of Palestinian children who are killed in 4 months is, more than what has been killed in 4 years in the world. in the world. So it's a genocide. It's the crisis of the humanity. And we need to ask the world why they can't stop the war. If the world can't stop the war, because it's biased, it's complicit, it's indifferent about what is happening. And most of what we call it, if we believe in the international conventions, the Human Rights Convention, it's time to walk the talk, not to talk about it in a selective bias, double standards. And that's what is happening, even the opposite. They are not doing good favors to Israel by providing them with weapons. They are doing self-destructive. And that's many of the Western countries and the Arab countries, the Muslim countries, who are complicit and silent, because silence in times of injustice is injustice. Where is the compassion we are talking about from our world, where they see the children? Gaza Strip now, it's first of all lifeless, homeless, waterless, foodless, healthless, childless, parentless. What else is remaining for the Palestinian? A Palestinian child, when you ask a child who is 7, 8 years, we ask them, what do you want to be in the future? And they will tell you, I plan to be a doctor, engineer, whatever they want. But the Palestinian children, they will say, I am not allowed to grow up. I am not allowed to grow up. Our destiny is to be killed in our childhood. And that's what is happening. Even what you said in 31st of October. I lost my daughters 16th of January 2009. But imagine 31st of October, 2023, 22 members of my nephew's nieces were killed. And that's the situation. When you see it, the Palestinians who are waiting, dying from starvation, from famine, you see the child who died from famine. Imagine this world. Where is the compassion of our world? Where is the humanity that we are advocating for? Where are the order of law, the international law? Where is this civilized? Are we civilized, or we reached a point? Imagine the people who were waiting to get a humanitarian aid, a bag of the flour, even what it mentioned, even the flour is stained with the blood when they were killed and they were attacked. That's my nephews and nieces when they were pile of bodies after they have been killed. And I hope one day I go home to see the graves of my daughters are still there, because even the graves they did are not safe. And that's our responsibility, the compassion. If they did, can't speak. If they did can't speak, it's the responsibility of the living, the loving, to speak out and to take responsibility and to act. And that's what we need. Gaza Strip, if you see it, how is it now? It's a ghost. It's a ghost. So that's what is going on now in Gaza Strip. It's the crisis of humanity.
Yeah. Like, I read your book and I felt like you were almost, it was like you expected this war to happen. You described it as sort of a pressure cooker. There was a lack of respect. Like, what were your feelings when, the thing, October 7th? Like, how did you feel? What was your reaction?
No, of course. What happened October 7th, it was shocking and it's painful. But as I said, it didn't start. The world is not created October 7th. It has been the Palestinian suffering. Number one, I condemn the killing of any innocent human being. Any innocent human being, no one is supposed to take the life of any innocent human being. So, but what happened? We need to ask. When a patient comes to me, I have to ask why the patient comes. What made the patient to come seeking medical care? So we need to ask why October 7th happened. It's the continuity. We need history. History is vital too, and that's why we take the medical history of the patient to help us to have accurate diagnosis. But the bias in the Western media and all of the Western world, they think the world started October 7. It's very painful, it's shocking. I don't accept the killing of any innocent people, but even that, revenge and killing is not going to be killed with killing. I said it from the first moment. What happened and what is the reaction? It's about revenge and the intention of killing, and it's not going to solve any problem. Violence is not going to be managed with violence. Killing is not going to be managed with killing, not negative with negative. It only leads to more bloodshed, more pain, more suffering, more violence, more hatred, and most important, more extremism. There is an alternative way to understand that the dignity, the freedom, the justice, and the life and the rights of all are equal, and all deserve to live equally. This is the guarantee. So we need to seek to implement these concepts and these values, and to live by these values without any discrimination. And even what is happening in this world, you see the Western community, they are watching what is happening. If they want to help, they can help the Israelis and to save, because what is happening is destructive not only to Palestinians, it's also destructive to Israelis. So we need to save the Palestinians and the Israelis, and the war one day will end. But what will be after the war? The invisible cost of the war, you can't set up a figure for the invisible cost of the war. Before the war, every 5 Palestinian children, there were 4 who are mentally disordered. What about after the war? All of the Palestinians are, what is going on? Mass destruction, mass slaughtering and killing, mass displacement, mass starvation, mass thirst. And what else is remaining? Even the environment is polluted. The people, they lost hope. And I hope, how can we, the sooner the better, to deal with these consequences, to prevent the hatred, the extremism from increasing.
Okay. So you mentioned how it's important that we understand. I'm looking at comments in the chats. I feel like we need to learn more. I have watched some documentaries well before October 7th. I wonder what type of media. Do you have any recommendations for books, for documentaries, courses, trusted news sources?
No, of course, there are many, I am sure there are many sources that you can, and personally, don't take anything for granted from the media. The media all of the time, they have their own agenda, so you are smart. Don't underestimate yourself. Think of it, if it goes with logic or not. Dig deeper. The world now is an open book. It's an open book. You can access the information from any source. And there are many, many sources started now to speak out. I watch Al Jazeera, I watch CBC, I watch even BBC, many other channels in this world, and many, the Guardians, even from Israel, you can watch or read from Haaretz, many media. It's there. It's an open book. So you can seek, and by the end, think of it. But you need to understand the history, what happened before, and this will help you to learn about what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and even, for example, the people, they think the war is because of Hamas. So, but we need to understand, what is Hamas? Mm-hmm. Is it about, are we dealing in a fragmented way, or do we want to deal? There is a Palestinian issue and an Israeli issue. The Palestinians are under occupation and the Israelis are occupied. And Hamas, where I am not supportive of any faction or any party, Hamas is part of the Palestinian people. But even those who are talking and criticizing them, they have to learn and to ask how Hamas was created. Hamas was created before the Intifada, the first Intifada, as a charity and licensed by the Israeli occupation to antagonize PLO, and they supported them, and they thrived, and they gave them money. Even before October 7, the money used to come from Qatar through Israel with bags, millions of dollars to go to Hamas. So why to blame us? Even the security of Israel, they told them there is something happening. And the Egyptians, they told them that there is something prepared, take your precaution. So it's the failure of the Israeli security also to take action, to react. Their hands was in cold water, relaxed, and they don't care. So, and now we are burned by the fire as Israelis and Palestinians. So it's important to dig deeper, even to find out how Hamas was found.
Okay. Have you considered writing a sequel, another book?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. What have you started?
Yeah, of course I started, because after the people, they think my life, even coming to Canada, I came to Canada in 2009, July 2009, with my 5 living children as a single parent, and they think Canada is a paradise, and nothing is easy in life. With the change, 5 children traumatized, lost their mother, 3 sisters, niece, and with no support here. And as a single parent, it was challenging to me. So I said from day one, personally, I can't tolerate failure. We have to succeed, and we have to move forward and not to give up. If the Canadians, they study 2 hours, we have to study 10 hours. Canadians are not smarter than us, and we have to achieve our goals, and that's what I did. So that's the life. That's what the next book will be, what the tragedy started even after 16th of January. Even I tried in every possible way to get an apology about the killing of my daughters. Even an apology, I didn't get it. So I am trying to write the book, I Shall Not Fear, a Gaza doctor's prescription for hope and healing. And where have we been? Because my youngest son, when we arrived to Canada, was 6 years old, and my eldest daughter was at high school, finished. So 2 of my daughters graduated from the School of Engineering, University of Toronto, who are working. My son graduated from Rotman School of Business, and the youngest, who came here 6 years, he is graduating this May from Schulich School of Business. And that's the hope, that's the antidote, and that's the challenge, how we succeeded to make life from death and to spread hope from the killing and suffering.
Okay. No, I am very happy to hear that your family has done well. You will be, Ramadan starts on Sunday for you, March 10th, and I believe March 11th in Palestine. Any idea how it's going to be celebrated over there?
I don't know. They are fasting without Ramadan. They are thirsty without Ramadan.
Yeah.
So, but still the people, they have faith, and they count, number one, because they lost faith in the international community and the humanity in which we live. But they have their own faith in God. And personally, I am worried and hope Ramadan as a blessed month where wisdom to prevail and action to come to put an end to this genocide and an end to this war, where the people, they started during the Holy Ramadan, where it is spiritual, to give the people to heal, to recover, to see the positive in what happened and to reflect on it, where the emotions will go down. This can be a healing month for all.
Let's hope. So I think the last question I'll ask you before I know there are many questions in the chat, but
so because there are certain questions.
Yes. So I'm just, if we want, I'll conclude my set of questions, but I'm really, what do you see is going to stop the conflict? Like, what's going to have to happen for
I will tell you, the conflict can stop once we recognize the rights of all and to treat all equally. the right, that's the guarantee for long, stable, sustainable relationship. We need the means to achieve it. Number one, the dignity of the Palestinians is interlinked, intertwined, and interdependent on the Israelis. The freedom of the Palestinians is also from the freedom of the Israelis. The justice for the Palestinians, the equality. This is what is needed, not as occupier, as occupied, but as a free, as equal, as dignified, and just for all. That's the guarantee for a long, stable. No one will accept to be inferior to other. No one will accept dignity to be less or humiliated or dominated by others. So the guarantee, because as I said today many times, the freedom, the future, the life, the rights of the Israelis is linked and dependent on the Palestinians' rights, justice, and the freedom and equality. Because I see here someone, he asked a question, Lior Caspi, I lost you when you said 32,000 innocent Palestinian killed. Many of them were Hamas fighters. How she knows that they are Hamas? The statistics which are clear on daily basis, it's about innocent Palestinians, innocent Palestinian women and the children. 13,000 or 14,000 are children. 14,000 are children who are below the age of 18, and women. We don't have women that belong to Hamas, and others are men. This is, many of them were Hamas fighters. This is absurd and is not the right. What about the hostages? Of course, and that's what we need to stop the bloodshed, to stop the war, and then to go to serious negotiations, because on daily basis, there are Palestinians who are kidnapped by the Israelis. Since October 7,000 Palestinians from the West Bank were kidnapped and were arrested in Israeli prisons. And also from Gaza, more than 1,000 Palestinians were in the prison now. And before, we have 6,000. So we need all to be free, the Palestinian prisoners and the Israeli prisoners. And as I said, she is asking, what do you say to Hamas? Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinian people. As Ben Gvir, what about Ben Gvir? He represents Israelis, Smotrich, Netanyahu, all of them. So we want to deal a nation to a nation, not in a fragmented way. We have the Israeli people and we have the Palestinian people. I am not supportive of any faction or any party, but Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinian people. It's part of the Palestinian people. What represents the Palestinian people is PLO.
Okay. Are there other questions that you want to respond to? And one of the board members for the Charter for Compassion, an Israeli, Amrit, I'm looking for a comment. She could not come. I'm just looking for the comments I was passed on, and I apologize.
Okay, and also, again, Lior is asking, what about Hamas, a charter regarding? And that's what I'm trying to say. What about the charter of the Likud? What about the charters of all of the Israeli parties? They don't recognize a Palestinian state, and they never recognize a Palestinian state. And what about, I want to ask you, Lior, what about the borders of Israel? Can you define the borders of Israel? It's the only country in the world without well-defined borders. It's the only country in the world without a constitution. Once they define their borders, and anyone to invade the borders of Israel, I will be the first to advocate and to defend Israel. But we need to define, but Israel is not defining any border. What are they doing in the West Bank? And you see it. What are they doing in the East Jerusalem? You see what about the incitements by Smotrich, by Ben Gvir, by Netanyahu. Netanyahu, he said it clearly, no for a Palestinian state. Even the Americans and the Canadians and the Western world, they said two-state solution. What was his response? No for two-state solution, no for East Jerusalem, no for the withdrawal of the 67 borders, the settlements, or the right of the return. What's remaining? I fully believe that Netanyahu is destructive to the Israelis and to the Palestinians.
Okay. Can you comment about how the situation of some dialogue between Israelis and the Palestinians that there were, I know, many organizations that were quite successful in doing that. Is there any success with
because
that right now?
you need dialogue for what? Dialogue, we need to set up the dialogue. Anything starts by talking, but we need to talk not for the sake of talking. When we say we need to talk as a grinding water, we need to have a goal for the talking and negotiations and dialogue. It's not just to come to talk. And we need to come to talk to set up the rules of talking at the same level and to achieve a goal. Not we are talking as Palestinians and Israelis, someone, for example, from the West Bank who is living under the occupation, and to speak with someone from Tel Aviv, and then the one who goes to Tel Aviv, and the Palestinians in the West Bank to face the suffering, the humiliation, the checkpoints, everything. So we need to put an end to the triggers. Honestly, the big elephant in the room is the occupation.
Okay. Okay.
And even someone about the hostages, which I fully support the release of the hostages, but the release of the hostages never happened, will never be successful with the war. And Israel, they have experience. And even from the start, what happened? Even when they released some of the hostages, it was through negotiation. So the negotiation and dialogue is the only way to put an end to this. We need diplomatic means, and that's what is needed. Before Gilad Shalit, he wasn't released, he was released with negotiations. Even these days, it's only with negotiations, and that's what we need to promote. But the opposite, what is happening? The Israelis, the Israeli force, they killed many of those hostages during what is happening now in Gaza. I want to see these hostages going back to their homes, to be with their parents, with their families, and also the Palestinian prisoners, and not to see anyone in a prison or hostage. I want all to be free and to turn the page of this dark period between Palestinians and Israelis.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of questions about sort of we're doubting what we're hearing, and how do you really, what's the truth? How do you uncover who's not manipulating? It really is challenging.
What do you mean? Which truth?
Well, what really is happening? I can look at two headlines and they're saying two opposite things, and it is really difficult to what is.
No, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. Use your mind. I said it clearly. There is a Palestinian nation and an Israeli. Do you know that the Palestinians are under occupation or not?
Yeah.
So, okay. So there is Israel as occupier and the Palestinians are occupied. And that's the problem. So the big problem, are they equal? Once occupied and occupier, they are not equal. So we want to equalize between them. So it's not the two sides. It's the two sides, but the two sides are not equal. And that's when we speak about it, both sides, let them talk. We want to diagnose it. And as I mentioned, the big elephant is the occupation. We need to put an end to the occupation. And also, by the way, the Israelis are occupied by their narratives and by their trauma and even by their political leaders, and they think we have the promised land. No one promised anyone, and the only way is to live together side by side as equal. And we want to equalize between them. As long as they are not equal, it's not going to lead to any positive way.
Yeah. We need to recognize there's a real power differential.
So as you mentioned, what you said, I can't know. No, it's clear, and it's, and that's what is important to understand it. We should not be engaged in a political agenda as many of the political leaders, in particular in Canada, in the States, in UK, in others, and the world will benefit from putting an end to this situation. Once the Palestinians are free and the Israelis are free, the world will benefit from it. Because you see, as a result of October 7, the world is polarized, is divided. And there is a benefit to the world from putting an end to this occupation.
Okay. Where do you see the role as the diplomat, say from Qatar or Yemen or Saudi Arabia? Do they have a significant role in moving things forward?
In Qatar, of course, it plays really in mediation with the negotiations. Qatar is playing an active role in this regard, even with the ceasefire negotiations with the hostages and in collaboration with Egypt and the states. The second, concerning Saudi Arabia, is complicit and silent about what is happening. Yemen, because they have the internal conflict and even the conflict, and the Houthi faction of it is engaged in the conflict, where they started with the Red Sea firing on the ships, and that's what is happening. So that's what I say. It expanded, it crossed barriers. What is happening there, Palestinian, Israeli, across barriers to come even to Canada. You see in Canada with the demonstration, the public, the people are divided under fear. Even as a Palestinian here, sometimes you feel threatened because you can't speak. We speak about the freedom of speech, but you can't express yourself. Then you will be called either anti-Semite or against. I said, I am not against any Jew. I respect them. And even for me, I believe in Moses. I respect them. I am against the administration of Israel, which is destructive to Israelis. And as I criticize the Palestinian leadership, no one is immune to criticism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know that Philippe wants to jump in and to ask some of the Facebook questions, but I'm just going to say one sort of comment question.
I want to respond even to Rinat. The Hamas wants to eradicate the Israeli state, stating it will do the October 7 again. Rinat, my dear Rinat, I know she is my friend. Rinat, what are you talking about Hamas? What about Netanyahu? What are they talking? Hamas is part, but the Palestinian people, the majority, they want to live in freedom with equality. And even Hamas, they declared that they accept a Palestinian state within the borders of 67. So what about Israel? Give me any of the parties in Israel which are ready to recognize a Palestinian state within the borders of 67. Or East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. So we should not be trapped in this propaganda to keep it as Hamas. Forget Hamas. Let us deal nation to a nation, not in a fragmented. So if we want to deal, what about the settlers? What about the settlers who are in the West Bank? 700,000 settlers in the West Bank who are stealing the water, stealing the land, destroying. And even the Israelis, they call them as terrorists. Even Ben-Gvir himself, he is a terrorist. So what are we talking about? So let us focus on the whole body. And you, Rinat, you are a medical doctor. You are a medical doctor. When a patient comes to you complaining of pain in the hand, you don't focus on the hand. You want to deal with the whole body, not in a fragmented way. So we want to deal with the current situation in a comprehensive, holistic approach, not in a fragmented way. But this is the propaganda to use it as if we are focused just Hamas. This broken record, it's futile.
Okay. Philippe is asked to jump in, but I'm going to ask this one question. Since this is International Women's Day, I haven't heard any women having a voice in any of this. Is there a reason for that? Like, there's no women stepping up and saying anything.
I think women, they should be, and that's personally, in memory of my daughters, where I believe in my life, I am in debt to my mother, my wife, and my daughters. So I believe also in women and women's role in achieving a stable, sustainable, healthy, safe, peaceful world. And that's the function of women, women's education, women's role, and to give women the opportunity to practice their role to be. The more we see women sitting on the table, the more peaceful world we have. And I challenge many people, give me 5 women who were behind war. You can't find 5 women. but we need women to be engaged in the table, because women are not only 50% of the world, they are more than 50% of the world. So it's their life, and even in times of war, women, they pay the major price.
Okay, thank you. Philippe, can you want to come on and lead the Facebook discussions?
Yes, thank you so much. Dr. Abuelaish, there is a question that was asked on Facebook about if there was one piece of advice, and I see that it's also asked here, if there's one piece of advice that you can give people in the international community, you know, people that are not in the Gaza Strip or Israel, what can we normal human beings do to help stop this genocide?
Yeah, that's important. We need to understand it. And this is important question, that the life of the Palestinians is linked to the life of the Israelis, and we all bleed the same color, and we are equal. So it's time not to watch what is happening. As a medical doctor, when I see a bleeding patient, what do? I rush to stop the bleeding. So the priority now is to stop the bloodshed. The more it prolongs and lasts longer, the more severe pain, and it will be harder. Now I believe it's reversible, and the Palestinians, and I am sure, give time to the Israelis and the Palestinians to reflect on what happened, and I am sure later on they will realize war is futile. It's a waste. It will never put an end to this situation. It's only sitting and realizing and to learn the lessons, because we say always, never again, never again. We need accountability, we need responsibility, and we need the international community to take its part in this conflict and to end the occupation, which guarantees the safety, the security, the freedom, the dignity, the equality of the Israelis side by side to the Palestinians. No Palestinian will accept to be less. I don't accept even you to be less than me. I should advocate for your equality as I am.
Thank you.
Not to be in denial. And that's what is happening now. The Israelis, they are injected with Hamas. No, we want to deal with the Palestinian people. And I believe, and that's what I'm working on, you know, all of those who were lost their life. We need to inject it into a vein of hope. We are accountable to that, not to be waste, whether Palestinians or Israelis, to be injected into a vein of hope, into a vein of life and the freedom to all, dignity to all, and equality to all. We are accountable. It will be painful if it is futile and to go again and again. We said never again. It's time to say this is the last and will never be repeated.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And so for people watching, you know, this would be for us to be actively asking our representatives in the government to make a declaration to cease fire, correct? Is that what you're trying to say, for us to get involved in that?
To engage in civil society, to expose it. And that's what we need from all to speak about it, and even to speak about what is right and about what is wrong, and how it helps to bridge the gap between the Palestinians and Israelis. And sometimes some people, you know, they don't want to take responsibility. They escape responsibility by blaming others. So I say to many of my Israeli friends, you are not angels. We are not angels in this world. We are not saints. We are human. We make mistakes. So take responsibility. Take responsibility about what are you doing. What do you want for yourself? I ask many Israelis, I ask them, what do you want for your children? They want them to be successful, to be great, and to have a good life. So what do you want for your children? To like it for the Palestinians and to advocate for the Palestinians. Not to be disconnected from what is happening. You know the distance between Gaza Strip, and even the inside Israel. It's a few kilometers, but they don't know what is happening in the Gaza Strip. Even with all of the genocide in the Gaza Strip, many Israelis, they don't know what is happening there.
Correct. Yeah. And it's very unfortunate for sure. So we have one last question, and I'm so sorry to everybody else that has been asking questions. We have a limited amount of time. From our board member, Yafa Maritz. She sends her regrets, and she would have loved to be here, but she was asking, are you planning on running again in politics on behalf of Palestinians?
No. I will never.
Perfect. And then the other question that she had is, what keeps you going now? And how should we step up our efforts, being in a global movement with big outreach to spread your message?
What keeps me moving is my faith. I am a person of faith. I continue to give. I work on things that I can make a change. Things are beyond my ability. I don't waste time in it. This is important. And that's also, even I don't think of the future. Always I think of the present, because the future, sometimes you don't know what will happen tomorrow in this world, which is crazy, which is less peaceful. So I enjoy every moment to be with my children and to do what I can do to make a difference in my life and others' lives. Because I know the meaning of loss. I don't want to see anyone to lose any loved ones, and to give back to others. I want to leave a good legacy to be remembered with good actions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And what a beautiful way to end this conversation.
Yeah.
Dr. Abuelaish, March, thank you so much both for being part of this global read, for this incredible episode where we're able to hear from your experience. Thank you for your vulnerability, for your experience, for all the things that you share with us during this hour. I feel a better and more informed person because of you. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And so I just wanted to bring up on the screen, every Wednesday until the end of the month, we have Marilyn Turkovich, our executive director, doing the magical ability of music to inspire action. This is a webinar series that, again, is every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, and it will donations are appreciated, but you're welcome to join us at any point. March 30th, Saturday, the last Saturday of the month, we have the Charter Sangha, our circle of trust, where we have time to meditate, take time moments of silence, and share in a community and safe space. Our CI course returns with Poetry for Inspiration and Well-Being. This is with John Smeltzer. This is all about poetry and how can you express yourself a little bit better. This course starts on April 1st, and it's for 4 weeks, and it costs $40, and you can register on our website. And we have 2 global reads, amazing global reads, just like this one that we had today in April. The first one is on April 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific with Desmond Tutu's granddaughters, Munji Ngomane. And this is the book Everyday Ubuntu, which is very fitting with what is going on right now with the Charter for Compassion and the Ubuntu Festival in South Africa. And later on, we have on April 13th at 9 a.m. Pacific, Mouth of the Donkey with Rabbi Laura Duhan Kaplan, who is the author of this book, and she's part of the Interfaith Amigos, so it will be a really great show to join for everyone to see. Again, Dr. Abuelaish, thank you so much for joining us, for all the things that you were able to share with us, for your patient vulnerability, and for the amazing words that you gave us. Any last words before we close this webinar?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
You good? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll have a great day, and we'll see you in the next webinar in April.
Okay, thank you so much. Be well. God bless you. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.